Yes.
Well, I might put my back on, but I gotta show you something.
Hello.
Hi, Bobby.
Look at this.
Ready? Here we go.
Actually, we have a contract in that tree in our backyard. There are 4 customers, and every spring they come back and they take the condos.
Right. Live from here, I'm Louise Palenker, and we are with Paul Cowsill, who worked on Twilight.
I did.
That's right, ladies. Mm-hmm.
I did.
Calm yourselves. Okay, so what was your job?
So I started off as a prop maker, and then a friend of mine comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, Paul, you know, you should be a greensman, because greensman, it's just a really fun gig." And so I said, "Well, sure, I'll try it." And what I did was I became on-set greensman, which is you travel with company while they shoot and you set up all the shots as they go. And it was just the most incredible gig, because me and John Birchfield, my buddy, and we were both the head greensmen, and we would go out into, you know, old growth Christmas tree farms and cut down all these Christmas trees, and we'd pay the guy who owned these Christmas trees, but they were like 150 feet tall. And what our job was, so company would come on to you know, a big field, and they go, okay, you know, and we're in the forest, but they were looking for a meadow somewhere where they can you know, set up all the cameras and all the lighting. And after they get all that set, then they asked me and John, now we need to bring the forest in. So a lot of times where you're seeing a shot, boy, I'll tell you, about 5, 10, 15, 25 feet of that is all fake. You know, and those are big trees put on like 4 foot by 4 foot, 1.125" plywood with big iron brackets, and then we screw it all together, and then we lean it up, and then we would put sandbags on them.
And I think the forest is an important role in the Twilight movie.
That's what was so great about Twilight, was that I spent my whole time on greens. I mean, it just ended and lasted forever and ever, and it was all about greens, and it was all about, you know, just any time that you see from the deer's POV, there are times when the deer's moving down a path, you know, running from, I would imagine, the vampires that just eat the animals, you know, and they don't eat people, and that whole thing. And so what we would have to do is actually get stands and stuff and put branches, so when the actor riding the bike that had a deer head on the bike on a gimbal, so when he hit a bump, the deer head would move. We had to bring the forest again in on these paths, so you could feel the speed of the deer. Branches flick by, and so now you're sensing, oh wow, this deer is moving out. This deer is freaked out. At the beginning of the movie, you guys, when the deer is down in that water pond, when he's getting his bit of water, and then he gets skittish, and obviously because the vampires are coming by, and he jumps out of that pond. That was all built. I built that whole thing out of ferns, and it all started off with a big plastic bucket, you know, that can retain water, and then we put water down in there, and it just was perfect for the shot. Bella and Edward and Dr. Cullen and all those guys. There were times when first unit and second unit were working in the same area, and that's when I would see all the, you know, Kirsten and these guys. But one time I was on first unit, and these kids came up, and I had a script with me, and they were asking me, you know, what the lines were. Now that was the first movie, okay, so everybody's easing in, and you know, and it was just funny to see these kids, and now you probably can't even talk to them. You know, these kids were under contract, and they couldn't be in the sun more than so many hours a day. You know, they had to keep their complexion somewhat pale. So,
Are you a vampire?
I am not a vampire.
Excellent.
The only real violence in all of the first Twilight was in the dance studio. And what we did was we built that whole dance studio inside our build, which is like a 2.5 acre shop. And so we built a lot of the sets, and we'll build them in a corner, and they'll go ahead and shoot on stage. And that whole thing was shot on stage. All those mirrors, we built that thing. Man, it took us, you know, gosh, that was the biggest part of the build for us. And by build, I mean, you know, you always have so many shoots and so many shots you're going to do. And, you know, whatever shots require a set, you have to build that set, you know, and that's a one build. And And then, you know, another, like a hospital scene, if you have to build the hospital, then that's another shoot, you know, another build. But that dance studio was pretty much the only big build we really had. And man, there was so much into that, I couldn't believe it. And it looked pretty good when I saw it. I went, oh wow. But it's really bizarre how much work and how much detail you put in. You know, we spent a lot of time trying to get just the right color for the walls. Because I also was a plasterer on Twilight, and I also did some painting.
Are you also a Cowsill?
I am a Cowsill.
Really? What if Cowsills were vampires? Then what would happen?
If Cowsills were vampires, you know, it's funny you say that, because I always thought Bill and Barry were kind of vampire-y people. The way they suck stuff out of people, you know, and left them high and dry. So maybe some of us, you know.
Yeah, because, you know, vampires are very captivating. They draw you in.
They have what do they call that? You know, charisma.
Yeah.
And all this stuff, and then you get in close, and then zappo. So there, yeah. So some of us are, and some of us aren't. You know. But I do think, and I don't really, but I think a lot of the Cowsills believe in vampires, even if they're not one.
Interesting.
Bye.
Bye. Live from here is out of here.